I've always been interested in the spiritual side of things, but it was actually my clients that brought me to bringing it into the real integration with psychotherapy. So when I was doing my doctoral internship, I'd already been working for 6 or 8 years as a therapist at the master's level. And I started having these clients that were having these kind of religious and spiritual issues that seemed to be somehow connected to what their psychological issues were, but I didn't quite know how to do that. And and then in the small town that I was working with in Michigan, for some reason, they had a flyer on the bulletin board that said spirituality and counseling, right? With Pir Vilayat and Ayat Khan. I thought Pir Vilayat and
Oh,
Sufi master. I thought, what's a Sufi master? And who's this name? I don't know about that, but I like the idea of spirituality and counseling because this was in the late 70s, early 80s. And it wasn't addressed at all at the university level. So I went to that workshop and I found this path, this universalist path that said all religions can be a path of the heart. And somehow I came back from that just really sensing the importance of spirituality. And so I started working with this one client, and somehow it's like she arrived in my life to tell me this was important because she was someone who had been depressed for years and years and years. All the medication, all the therapy was not really doing anything. And she was a believer. She was one of the key people for me that made me want to go to that. But she was cut off from her faith, and she also had a really bad case of psoriasis, right? And when I came back, I started working with her and seeing. I found out that well, she had been sexually abused by her priest, right? So
mm,
this is like one of those really double wounds, right? You both have the person um, uh, that wounds you, that should be a source of inspiration in your life, and they've
yes,
cut you off from your spiritual life as a source of healing.
yes.
So, and what I found then was we're somehow working together with her, we found a saint, Dymphna, who was a saint for sexually abused women and
Wow.
for mental health from the 16th century. And she liked that idea because she was very much a believing Catholic. And so she started to pray to Dymphna. And all we did in therapy after that for the next few weeks was form the question. She went home and prayed. And oh my gosh, after 3 weeks, her depression went away.
Wow.
Psoriasis went away. And it was sort of like, all right, what's this? I've been doing psychotherapy for 6 years. It doesn't change this fast. This isn't something that normally happens like this. So I really realized then that here's this source. I don't know what it is. I don't all, but I know that a person's faith and their ability
Yes.
to connect to that faith and bring that faith to the daily struggles that they're facing can bring tremendous healing into a person's life.
This is what an incredible story. And it's so part of what I love about it is um it's so honoring of her and what was important to her. And the mechanism, you're mentioning all paths, being, leading to God. And so honoring that spiritual one, that spiritual tradition for her, and then two, just the source of the empowerment for her to step into to reconnect with her own kind of using that candle in the light of that, right? Is that kind of what you're speaking to
Exactly. And
reconnecting
that's
to
the
that?
key thing of being able to help them to find their path, not my path. What didn't come from any ideas that I had. I just said, oh, I found out what her tradition was, searched a little bit in that tradition to see if there were some places that she could reconnect, helped her find those places to reconnect. And then she did the rest, right?
Yeah. When and it just speaks to the power of that. And then because to me, as you were talking, and I love that this case study that you're mentioning speaks to, because you were talking about the anima, right? And the how the light comes into the form of the body. And I was going to mention, in your experience, what's the impact on physical health? Because it's almost like it's intended. I mean, I would argue, right? The physical form is intended to have that emerge, that light. And then, of course, health would be a facet of that.
Right. And in this instance, it was sort of like what, for whatever reason, the main case that was given to me by the universe, right, was this one where there was a clear physical symptom that changed as well as the psychological symptoms. And so, and we know that psoriasis has like a component that can be affected by well, really the whole harmony in the inner system,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
If you can bring that harmony in the inner system, then the natural healing forces in the body now have a chance to do what they would do, right?
Exactly. Exactly.